Hi, it's Anika from Living for Later, and we're at that time of year where many of us are reflecting on the birth of Christ. And if you take note, in Matthew, the book of Matthew, and even in the book of Luke, we see that God used dreams to convey messages to different key players in the birth of Jesus, right? We see that he provides direction. We see that he provides clarity, that he outlines purpose. So we see Joseph having dreams that provide clarity. We see Mary having a dream that kind of outlines just her purpose and what God wanted to do with her. And even back up to Joseph, we see that God provided a warning for him in just different dreams that he had and gave him direction in terms of where he should go. And God does the same thing even with the wise men. So I think that it's important for us to take note that just like God spoke to the people in Bible times through dreams, he still does the same for us in terms of speaking to us through dreams. And I think if we're not careful, we can be extremely dismissive. Sometimes we're praying and saying, "Oh God, I want to hear your voice." And we don't realize that sometimes having dreams can be a way of hearing God's voice, for him to just give us the answer for just different questions that we may have. And I know that I've always been a dreamer, but I didn't realize that God was often speaking to me through these dreams. So a lot of dreams that I had, I would just wake up and go, "Oh, that was strange," and just kind of dismiss it. And even before I was saved, God would just give me dreams. And we see that in scriptures. You know, you don't necessarily have to be saved for God to speak to you. We see different examples in scriptures where even Pharaoh had dreams, right? And they had to have Joseph come along and give those interpretations. So even King Nebuchadnezzar. But nevertheless, back on point. So I would have dreams and I would be dismissive of those dreams. Well, as I have matured and grown in the Lord, I realized, hey, pay attention, Anika. And I just want to share just a quick list of just things that I have learned as I have been paying attention to my dreams, and just things that I want to share on how to steward just what God is telling you. So the first thing is that I have learned is not all dreams are literal. If you take every dream that you have literally, you will be left extremely confused. Some dreams are just straightforward and it's black and white, and you know exactly what God is saying. If it's a shoe that's shown in the dream, God is saying literally this means a shoe. Well, that's not always the case. I know I've had some dreams and there's a lot of symbolism, and initially I couldn't understand, like, what does this all mean? And oh my goodness, I'm seeing this, so therefore it's gonna mean this. Well, I'll give you a quick example. So I recently had a dream of someone who had their legs cut off, and in the dream, that didn't discourage them at all. The person was just still going forward full speed, and somehow in the dream they were able to still run, and they were filled with joy even though they had no legs. And before, in the past, a dream like that would have just made me just extremely terrified. But I recognized that it wasn't a bad dream. While on the surface it seemed like it was a bad dream, what the Lord really revealed to me the next morning when I woke up and I was writing the dream down was that this was actually a good thing. This person, who I know personally, had just gone through some extreme difficulty, and what they went through seemed like, man, their legs were just totally cut off from underneath them, right? Figuratively speaking. But the circumstances, the difficulty that they went through didn't set them back. If anything, they kept on running their race. They kept on pressing. And just like God showed me in the dream, in reality, this person was still filled with joy, and they didn't let the circumstances that the enemy was throwing at them, they didn't allow that to derail them. So again, I saw the symbolism in the dream, and in the past, I would have just been afraid and, oh, this is not good. This person, and been praying, oh, God, cause their legs not to be cut off. But again, just understanding that this was symbolic for something bigger and that it was actually a good thing just helped. Okay, so the second thing is learn how to steward the dream. So the second point is steward your dream well, or be a good steward of your dream. What do I mean by that? Well, as I said in the opening of the video, I used to be very dismissive of the dreams that God would give me. And now I'm learning to pay attention. Now I'm learning to be a good steward. And one of the things that I do is I have a dream journal, and I've made it a habit to just write out the dreams the next morning. I don't wait until, 5 days later to record the dream, but like in the morning after I've had a dream that's just very pronounced and there's no denying that it was from God, I write the dream out. And the next thing that I do, which goes into the third step, which is to pray for interpretation. I used to just have my dreams and just kind of go along my merry way. Well, now I have found that, hey, I can pray and ask the Lord for interpretation. I know it seems silly, but whatever. I just realized that I should pray, and I can pray and ask the Lord to give me the interpretation. And sometimes in the process of me writing the dream out, God will just give me the interpretation of that dream. And I think this is something that the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And I think you have a greater ability to hear the voice of the Lord. I think sometimes we can see certain things as just so lofty and, oh, I could just never interpret this dream. Well, that's not true. If the Lord gave it to you, He will provide interpretations. And some dreams, quite honestly, I may not have the interpretations right away, but as time goes on, I'll see it unfold, and God is saying, well, remind me, hey, this is what that dream meant. And sometimes I even share it with others and they provide more clarity, but I make it a point to first pray and ask the Lord to show me. And again, I may not have the interpretation right away, and I may have to go and ask someone else to help me, but I start off by first going directly to God. All right, the next thing that I want to share is to not become discouraged or be dismissive if the dream doesn't come to pass right away. I know that there are certain dreams that I had years ago, and I'm just now seeing those dreams fulfilled. But I recognize the dreams have been fulfilled because I took the time to actually write the dreams down. And, even if you don't write it down, God in His sovereignty can bring it back to your memory. But for me, I just found that it's, helpful to just write the dreams down. And it's even for my own personal encouragement. The last thing that I've done, which is connected to me writing my dreams down, is when a dream comes to pass, I like to go back and just sometimes even date it and says, okay, yeah, God, this thing that you showed me has certainly come to pass. So it's just an encouragement for me to know, hey, I'm hearing from God. And not only am I hearing from God, but to just understand that He loves me so much to communicate to me and to give me clarity. And that gives me even confidence for just other things that I may have before Him, to say, okay, God, I don't have clarity now, but I'm believing that just like you gave me clarity before, just like you provided direction for me before, that you can do the same even now. So of course, dreams are not the only way that God speaks to us. He speaks through us, of course, through our word, His word. And I have to say this, like, don't just get to the point where you're just like, okay, I'm just depending on God to speak to me in a dream, and you're not spending time in the word, because being in the word also helps you to have a greater understanding when the dream comes, right? So it's not, oh, I'm just going to depend on dreams and forget the word. The word is the primary thing. And of course, planting yourself in prayer. All right. So the final thing is I want to show this to you. This is my dream journal. And I used to record my dreams in my same notebook that I was using to write down notes and just things that I had to be thankful for. But I realized that I have been dreaming more frequently, and it seems like the more I pay attention, the more I realize that, oh, I'm dreaming a lot more than I realize. So I just decided to just get a totally new journal and have that be specifically for dreams. And it just makes it easier, quite honestly, for me to be able to go back and refer to just different things. And all I do is I just write the date, and then at the top, I'll just in red write really quickly what the dream is about. And then I'll go through and write the dream down. And then after I'm done writing the dream, I'll just put a part at the end that says interpretation. And if God gives me an interpretation, I'll write that interpretation down. And then sometimes, like I said, I'll go back and write down the date for when that dream actually came to pass. So just wanted to share that with you. Sometimes I think we can make these things just seem so mystical and, oh, I'm a dreamer. And it's really not that mystical. It's just God speaking to his children. So I think that's it. You be blessed.